Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, IBM I on Power. We're lucky enough to have Steve Will with us today. He's the Chief Architect for IBM I operating system up in Rochester, Minnesota. Steve, good morning.
Good morning, and glad to be here.
Great. My name's Kevin Vogel. I'm part of the leadership team here at Champion Solutions Group. I'm just going to be your host. Steve is going to have some really good content for all of you people out there, and we'll get the webinar started. So as you probably know, Steve Marinak and his family are now with the Champion Solutions Group family, and Steve and his father have been doing iSeries for 50 years. So they've really brought a whole new environment to Champion here around I still call it AS400. I know it's iSeries, but I guess I'm an old guy too. I remember the System 36 and the old timers. But Steve and his family have been selling and installing IBM systems for 50 years. And last year, he came on board with Champion Solutions Group. And now we have a very, very strong practice in iSeries and being able to support our customers around this really, really important product set that IBM has. And as you can tell, it is over a century of experience that IBM, with their certified experts that are well equipped to provide support service to the largest and smallest iSeries customers. Our I team, and that really is our iSeries practice here at Champion, they're available to all of our customers for consulting and project management. We do everything from full OS upgrades without stepping on anybody's current environment. We have technical staff that consists of a lot of IBM or former IBM employees, and we use these experts really to help our customers get the most out of their iSeries. And like we said, this is an important brand for IBM. It's also a very, very important brand for us here at Champion. So as you can see, these are the areas where we can help with I. And it starts at OS and goes through hardware and all the different things that you can see here. Probably the two areas that have been really important to us is relocation services. We've done a lot of them where people are either moving their locations or actually moving iSeries into a colo. We've done that quite often. And then cloud. Cloud and virtualization is a big part of our heritage here at Champion, and now it's really a big part of our iSeries practice with doing backups and disaster recovery in the cloud. It's something that a lot of customers have been asking for, and it's what we're really, really confident at doing. And with that, I am going to hand over the presentation here to Steve and just give you the ability to share your screen, Steve. And now there we go. So Steve, with that, I'm going to hand it over to you. Now, just so everyone knows from a logistics standpoint, you can ask questions all along the way here on your go to my webinar interface. There's a questions button where you can ask questions. I will be monitoring them, and then Steve will be answering them at the end of his presentation. With that, Steve, I'll hand it over to you.
All right, thanks very much. So today I'm going to be talking about the direction of the IBM I operating system. Specifically, we'll talk a bit about what we've been delivering lately, the strategy that we have, and how we fit on top of the IBM Power Systems platform as one of the 3 operating systems that sit there. I am the chief architect, and a lot of times people want to know what that means so they understand why they're listening to me talk. I am in the development organization for the operating system that has its heritage in the AS400. I started in January of 1985 here in Rochester, Minnesota, and at the time that I was hired to be one of hundreds of programmers who are going to combine 2 very important systems, the System 38 and the mainframe. there was a project going on at that point that said if we could apply the System 38 architecture to the mainframe, we would have a great combined set of technology for our large customers and our smaller customers forever. That project didn't happen, obviously. We never converged the mainframe and the System 38, but a lot of the technology we were working on became the core technology that became part of combining the System 36 and the System 38 to become the AS400, and so I've been working on this platform essentially since before the platform started. I am the chief architect now and I have been for 10 years. That means I'm responsible for the strategy and the plan for this operating system. I'm not a marketing guy, I'm not a services guy, I am a development guy who has overall responsibility for the technical content of IBM I. So that's who I am, and I think that gives me a unique perspective in terms of where we're going, because that's part of what I do. So we're going to talk today about where we're going with the IBM I platform. And by the time I finish with this presentation, we'll fill in these road signs so that you'll know the sort of basic things, the key items that we're investing in. Now, we do have a long history on this platform. The AS400, which we sort of consider the beginning. Yes, there was a System 36 and System 38, and someday maybe you can have me back and I'll do a whole architecture evolution presentation. But we sort of count ourselves as having been born when the AS400 was born in 1988. In 2000, the whole IBM systems family got renamed from whatever they were at the time to being a series with a letter on the front of it. And so AS400 became iSeries. And I, at that point, stood for integration, and it still does. And we'll talk more about that. We stopped being iSeries in 2006. We became System I. And then in 2008, we finally finished the convergence that we wanted to converge our Unix-based platforms, which had the heritage in the RS6000, with our AS400 or iSeries heritage, and we became Power Systems. That's the system you buy today. Whether you call it an iSeries or even an AS400, what you're purchasing from IBM is a power system. And running on top of that power system, we have three different operating systems. The one that came from the AS400 or iSeries heritage is IBM I, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So that's how I talk about it. It is an operating system that sits on top of power systems. I use IBM I pretty much all the time when I talk. Sometimes I just say I, and you can tell by what I say next whether I'm talking about myself or my operating system. So I have 4 children. I is great in the cloud. I think you can tell the difference. Okay, so let's continue. When we made our transition to being IBM I on top of power systems, the logo that was created for us had words added to it, for business, because this platform has always been a platform about creating business solutions. We do great advanced technology, and you'll see some of that in my presentation, but we don't do it just to do it for technology's sake. We do it because there is a business value that we're going to provide to our clients. And that is what our clients continue to expect from us. So we focus that in the logo that we created. Now, what about our business? What is our business? Well, we've never been a platform that focuses on 1 or 2 or 3 specific industries. We've wanted to be a solution platform that can run any business but provide a great solution platform for that business solution or those various business solutions to run on top of. And so we have a lot of our clients who do our traditional stuff in manufacturing and distribution, but we've also got a lot of people who are growing their business in the financial industry or in retail. More and more of our clients are doing online retail through IBM I. Hospitality, that you can see on the chart there, is really a code word for casinos. Our lawyers and marketing people, for some reason, don't like us to use the word casino, but we run the back end of pretty much any casino you have ever been to. So our business is really about creating a platform, a stable, reliable, securable platform that any industry would want to run on top of, and then we work with our solution providers. And oh my goodness, you're going to hear me say solutions and solution providers so many times during this presentation. Because when we were initially created, The AS400 was initially created with an idea that if we could be the best possible business solution platform, people would want to buy us because the solutions would want to run on top of us. And when the AS400 was first proposed as an idea, way back in the late 80s, to the IBM company, the IBMers here in Rochester created a slide foil. You guys probably remember, if you're old enough, we didn't used to have PowerPoint. We had to create these things called slides. Anyway, this was a slide back then I've turned into PowerPoint now to show what our heritage was. We were going to create ourselves a platform that managed data for the application, that provided security for the application, that integrated everything the application needed, that was flexible enough that if the application needed to grow or needed to add a piece to it or needed to run next to itself and provide software solutions to two different businesses but on the same box, we as a platform would be able to do that from the very beginning. And then we wanted to make sure that we could protect the investment of those solution providers so that if they wrote a piece of code that took 6 people a year to do, they wouldn't have to redo that just because we changed the hardware underneath the covers. Okay, well, that's a still radical idea these days, but we created an architecture from the AS400 days to be able to do that. So our integrated database and our single level store made it possible for application developers and application users to not have to be experts in managing storage or in managing the database. We did that for them. Our object-based architecture made it essentially impossible for people to do things like Trojan horses and viruses, things that plague other operating systems because of the protection that we provide with our object-based architecture. And the integration I'll talk more about as we get through it, but we've had the ability in our virtualized work management to have subsystems, small systems running within one system since before anyone ever created the idea of virtual machines. And, in fact, many of our customers use our platform to run multiple workloads because it was designed to do that. Whereas on other operating systems, you usually have to have a virtual machine set aside, and often it's a real machine set aside to do a particular workload, and it has to connect to other machines to be able to do other workloads. That's never been our value proposition. We've always wanted to have those things running next to one another. And then our technology-independent machine interfaces made it possible for solution providers to keep a compiled piece of code that they compiled back in 1988 still running on today's Power 8 systems, even though it was initially created for a platform that may have been an AS400 CISC-based processor years and years and years ago. So that's what we carry forward as part of the IBM I architecture, and everything that we do is predicated on our ability to be able to continue to use this. But over the years, of course, to be a solutions platform, we've had to integrate different technologies than existed back then. Back then, in 1988, there was no such thing as the internet, there was no such thing as open source, there was hardly even a Unix, though there was the core of a Unix. These days, we have incorporated and integrated into our platform these new things that are necessary for today's solution environment. So, for example, you look in there, we've always had things like our OLTP processing. We've always done systems management. We've added things like web services. We've added things like the Apache open source web server. You know, when we added that thing over 15 years ago, most of our clients were saying, oh, we'll never attach our AS400 to the internet. Okay, you can believe that, but we know that at some point we're going to need to use a web server to manage the platform, and we bet that many of our clients are going to use it. So we integrated that long time ago, and now most of our clients use it, and we use it for how we manage the platform. So there's a lot of our direction that looks at new technology and tries to figure out what's the next thing that our clients are going to need because their solutions are going to need it. So let's talk about the roadmaps that we have. First of all, this chart is meant to show you that we are an operating system that runs on a piece of hardware, so there are two important roadmaps. There's the hardware roadmap, and then there's the software roadmap. Now, I'm the chief architect for the software, for the operating system, so I'm going to spend most of my time talking about the operating system, but I do want to talk a bit about the power roadmap and how that affects our business and, of course, your business as customers and users of the platform. We have been consistently putting out new machines with new powered chips for more than 10 years now. I guess since 2004, when our first Converge Power 5 came out, we've been on a 3 or 4 year cadence to produce new systems with better and better processors. The stuff you can buy today is Power 8 based. We are on the cusp of being able to do Power 9. We've been talking about it a bit for the past year or so because of our openness about doing future power with people like Google and NVIDIA and so on. But right now, I can tell you that even though Power 9 isn't available to you yet, it's basically baked into the versions of IBM I that are going to run on top of Power 9. We aren't done testing it yet, but we will be fairly soon. What my architecture team is working on is what even the next Power that doesn't even have any hardware associated with it at all now, just has an architecture. That's what we're working on next. So we have a long future ahead of us as a hardware platform. And that platform is meant to provide a business solution platform that is different from the competition that's in the marketplace today. We were designed to do big things. We were designed to do a lot of transactions very quickly. Now, again, I'm not the hardware guy. I'm not the guy who designs that. But Bill Starkey, who is the chief architect of Power 8 and will be the chief architect of Power 10, put together a couple of slides to help us describe to our clients why it is that Power is different and, in fact, better for business processing. So I'm going to take you through a couple of those before we go back to software. So these are conceptual pictures. If you're not a hardware person, don't worry. I'm not a hardware person either. What we're trying to show is the difference between the stuff that runs your system and what you can buy, for example, for PCs or phones. Most semiconductors that are not made by IBM are made in a marketplace that's meant to serve personal computers and mobile phones. And so what they have is a substructure that carries data around that can be conceptualized like this. There are 9 microscopic layers, and each of those layers has tubes or channels through which data can flow. Now, the idea behind this graphic is that the bigger it is, the faster the data can be, and the more data it can carry. So they have 9 layers in their semiconductor. We have 15 in Power. So already we have more, so we're better, right? And that's true, but it's even more pronounced than that. The lowest level wires on a semiconductor board have to be used to connect the circuits to one another. They aren't being used to run your data or run your operations, okay? So that has to be done. Everybody has to do it, so about the same amount of space on the chip has to be done, okay? Then there's the highest level stuff that's used for distributing power, keeping things in sync, etc. Again, it has to be done, but it's not carrying your data. So what's left over on this chart is the black stuff. Now we're going to turn it blue and remove everything else. Okay, what you can see there is that we on Power have some very big data carrying pipes. We can carry lots of data very fast. We got 4 of those conceptually, whereas they have none. We have 9 mid-sized things that can carry data pretty fast, and pretty much they only have 4 of them. So we're twice as big there. And for the smallest pipes, the pipes that carry data slower, we even have 50% more than they do. So what we're looking at in Power is a platform that was not designed to handle personal computers. It was not designed to handle the workloads that you're running on a phone. It's designed to handle lots of data very fast, which is exactly what businesses need to do. This is what we're out there competing in the marketplace with in IBM these days to try and take over a lot of old x86 workloads, because we believe businesses want to run on this kind of hardware. And certainly our IBM I clients want to run on that kind of hardware, where they want to run on something that was designed to handle lots of transactions. All right, so now let's move into the software side of this thing. What have we been delivering, and how do we deliver it to the marketplace? Well, the people who are listening to this, you'll probably find that whatever release you're running on is probably on this roadmap. These are the 3 releases that we currently support today. The 7.1 release, the 7.2 release, and our most recent release, which came out a little over a year ago, called the IBM I 7.3 release. We deliver function to our clients these days in two ways. Major releases, which is the way we've always done it since the days of the AS400 and earlier, okay? And those come out every 2 to 4 years. But we also deliver new function in what's represented on this box by the smaller IBM I logos with the ... after them. These are our technology refreshes. These were made possible first by an architectural change in 7.1 that allow us to update the operating system with discrete, testable things that don't force you to go to another major release and don't force you to requalify your applications, because we don't change anything in our interfaces, but we give you new major function. And so with that, we've been able to divorce the operating system from the processor family. So for example, back in 7.1, because we didn't have technology refreshes back then, when Power 7 came out, we needed a major release that would take advantage of Power 7, and that was the 7.1 release. But now when Power 8 came out, we had a technology refresh capability, so we could put out a 7.2 and a 7.1 technology refresh that allowed those to run on top of Power 8. And when 7.3 came out, it was ready for Power 8. And when Power 9 comes out, we'll be able to put out technology refreshes for 7.2 and 7.3 that will make those releases run immediately on top of Power 9 and won't force you to go to another major release. So that's a couple of important points about this roadmap. The other important point I want to point out before we move off this roadmap is the iNext and iNext +1. We are currently working on the next couple of major releases, plus the technology refreshes that will come out in between and after they come out. Okay, so our client base is often concerned about whether there's a future for this platform, and I'm here to tell you that today our development labs are working very hard on the next major release. Okay, and we even have things that we know we're not going to get done in the next major release that we're putting out into technology refreshes and major release after that. So we're out there doing things. And this roadmap is very similar to the roadmap you would have seen 10 years ago when I took over as chief architect. But back then, V5R4 would have been the most recent release. So instead of 7.1 and 7.2, you would have had 5.2, 5.3, 5.4 in the middle, and then the next one would have been hinting at the 6.1 release, and the next +1 would have been hinting at the 7.1 release. We've been delivering on this roadmap consistently, and so I want clients to be confident that we're continuing to do that. Now, if you want to see what our strategy is, of course you're listening to me and you're going to get it this way. But if you need to hand material off to somebody else to say, here's what I heard Steve say, the charts will be fine, but there is a white paper that we produce and refresh every year and a half or so. This version of the strategy white paper and roadmap came out in conjunction with the 7.3 release that we released in the spring of 2016. So that's the version you can still get today. And most of what I'm saying to you today is reflected in that strategy and roadmap paper. It's just something that's a little more easy for an executive to consume if they can't spend an hour listening to me. Now within that strategy paper, we had our general manager, Doug Baylog, write a letter at the beginning to talk to our clients, because our clients like to know that our executive level managers are still supporting this platform. There's always concern in our customer base that somehow IBM's going to walk away from that. He wrote these couple of sentences that I think are important for us to examine why he would say such a thing. All right, he said, IBM I plays a critical role in our power system software portfolio. What does that mean? Well, for those of us who are even considering retirement, we know that we have to set aside a portfolio of investments that we make. It's not just one thing. We invest in a bunch of different things so that by the time we get to retirement, we will have what we need. In his case, in Doug Baylog's case, he needs a portfolio of things that provide software and revenue to his power systems business. IBM I provides the largest amount of software revenue to his portfolio of anything he owns. So it's really important to him that we continue to deliver that. When our client base or our competitors who are trying to spread fear, uncertainty, and doubt think about or say that IBM is going to walk away from this platform, what they have never realized is that there is a huge portion of our revenue and profit that is generated by this platform, and no sane businessman working as the head of Power Systems is ever going to want to walk away from that. And that's one of the things that Doug is saying here. It plays a critical role in our Power Systems software portfolio. It's not the only thing. There's AIX, there's Linux, there's a bunch of other stuff, but we provide more software revenue to that portfolio than anything else. And so the second part, we're going to continuously provide new solutions and are engaged in expanding new technology areas. And that's what I'll be talking about in the subsequent charts in this presentation. Now, another thing that he was quoted as saying was in the spring of that year when he did an article with IT Jungle. IT Jungle is one of the trade press organizations that keeps track of our part of the industry. One of the things he said is, many of our largest clients run their critical workloads on IBM I, and I don't see that fundamentally changing. Now, I think that's really important for most of our clients to understand. Most of our clients, probably 80 to 85% of our clients, are small to mid-sized businesses, or at least businesses that use small to mid-sized power systems. They might be pretty big customers. Under Armour, for example, is a customer of IBM I who tends to run their businesses on smaller machines as opposed to bigger machines. But in any case, we've got large customers who run their businesses on IBM I, and there is no way that those clients are going to leave the platform. So our smaller clients can be assured that IBM is paying attention to both the large and the small clients, and that they've got good company when they're running on IBM I, because there are so many of our largest clients who run on IBM I. He also said we have a long roadmap that goes out at least 10 years. So I'm going to be talking more about that roadmap and that 10 years in a couple of charts. So our strategy, I'm going to segue now into our strategy and how that relates to our roadmaps and what we're delivering. First of all, I've already talked about we are a solutions platform. So we continue to work with our solution providers because it's their software that runs the businesses that cause people to buy our platform in the first place. But a lot of them have a tremendous amount of code that's been around for a long time, and our clients may need help getting that into today's modern environment. And so we work with partners who help customers and these solution providers move into modernization and to cloud space. That's an important thing for us. We partner with people who will help us get there. We also want to make sure that our clients have open choices. We are not in the business of telling people, oh, you have to write your application in this language. We want to make sure that solution providers have lots of different options, and we want to pull solutions into our our portfolio of solutions by making it possible for even things that are in the open source environment to run on IBM I, so the customers can choose that. And then we are going to integrate this stuff. That's our strategy. Our strategy is to partner with people. Our strategy is to provide open choices for them, and then we're going to integrate that. And that's what this chart says. This chart is part of what's in that white paper that I was talking about. Okay, we are the Power Solutions platform. I've said solutions a lot of times. I'll say it some more, but AIX is not about being a solutions platform. AIX is about being the best possible Unix in the world, and it is. Okay, but that's not how we compete. We do not compete with them in that space. We're not a Unix. We're not trying to be that. What we're trying to be is a solutions platform. And so that's our role, continue to be a Power Solutions platform. We're also about giving our customers choices and delivering consistently on that, and then integrating all that so that our customers don't have to worry about how to use all these new technologies. That's our basic strategy. And this, by the way, is the strategy that we've had. The solutions, open for choice, and integrated have been our hallmarks since I became chief architect 10 years ago. This is how we described our strategy. The words in the bullets underneath that have changed sometimes. You know, we're talking about 7.3 now, for example. But we've been a solutions platform, open for choice, and doing it in an integrated way for a long time. And we've been talking about that publicly. Another part of our strategy, though, I've only begun talking about publicly in this last year as it became clear to me that we were behaving strategically in ways that our customers weren't recognizing. So I want to let you know this is also part of our strategy. We're out there communicating. It's one of the reasons I'm doing this session for our business partners. I want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to hear where we're headed as a platform if they're a user of our platform. So we're going to continue to communicate, not only through webcasts, but through blogs and Twitter and LinkedIn and so on. We're communicating as much as we can about the platform today so that people can find technical information and directional information. We are also investing. This is another thing that our clients are worried about us not doing, but we've been doing for years and years and years. We're going to invest. What are we going to invest in? We're going to invest in the technology for the existing core workloads, the things that run your business. We're not walking away from any of that. We continue to invest in DB2 more than anything else. We're going to continue to invest in languages and supports for the new Power Platforms and so on. But we're also investing in emerging technology that we believe everybody is going to need in the next 5 to 10 years. Again, go back to that web server comment that I made during the integration chart. People 10, 15 years ago would not have believed that they were going to need to have a web server running in their platform. We knew that we were going to at least use it internally and that customers probably would find a use for it, and certainly our solution providers have as they've advanced their solutions. So we're going to continue to invest in emerging technologies that we know are going to provide business value into the future. And then we're going to partner. This is something we've been doing since the beginning of the AS400, partnering with people, but it hadn't been sort of stated as part of our strategy. Now I want people to understand. We're partnering with ISVs. Now, there are well over 4,000 ISVs who have solutions on our platform. We don't partner with every one of them. We don't have time. But we do make available to all of our ISVs information about the new technology that we're doing so that they can take advantage of it. And if they have questions, they want to work with us, those folks who are working on new technology, we're working with those folks. Business partners who will engage and serve clients reliably and bring this new technology and the new value to the marketplace. Again, we have business partners all over the world. We want to work with folks like Champion who want to bring this reliably to our platform's customers. So that's what we're doing. We're partnering with them. We're making ourselves available and doing what we can with them. And then we have customer advocates, people who are willing to give us advice, and we'll talk a bit more about those on a future slide. So here we go. We got those major releases that I talked about before. These are the key points. We've got major releases. We're going to be doing new ones, and we have semi-annual technology refreshes. I do want you guys to be aware of that, by the way. We're giving you twice a year at least new capability in virtualization, in hardware support, in database support, in language support, and you're not having to go to major releases for that. That's all just bundled up as a technology refresh, which looks like a group PTF to you guys. So this is our new strategy. We aren't waiting until the next major release to give you something. If we can give you something with a technology refresh, we give it to you there so that you can adopt some of this new technology as soon as you're ready for it. Now, another part of our roadmap that we use to show people longevity and to assure people that we'll be around for a long time is the support roadmap. The key to this is to understand what the colors mean and what the shapes mean. The darker color, the color that looks like a dark blue-green, is meant to indicate normal support. So normal support for a release is approximately 7 years long. That's how long 5.4 lived, that's how long 6.1 lived. 7.1's living a little longer than 7 years. But basically that normal support, we expect that most of our releases will be out for 7 years. In each of the past two releases, 6.1 and 5.4, we've added an extended support contract in case people needed a little extra time to get off of that major release to one of the future releases. And we've already said that the 7.1 release is going end of support in April of 2018. We've also said that there will be an extended support contract for that. So that's what that hashed bar after the 7.1 line is about. When we announced our technology refresh this fall, because we do it in the spring and fall of every year, when we announce it this fall, we'll probably at that point be announcing the extended support contract for 7.1. But we have 7.2 and 7.3 out there in the marketplace today. They'll probably each live for about 7 years. I've told you there are 2 new releases under development. Now the arrows are meant to indicate we haven't announced this yet, so it's still an approximation. But we've delivered releases every 2 to 4 years, so we picked 3 to show here. So if we do the next major release in 2019 and the next major release after that in 2022, you can see that support, even normal support for the releases that we know we have under development right now, are going out almost to 2030. Again, this is supposed to be able to inform you about what our support is currently, but it's also supposed to give you a good feeling that you can invest in this platform and know that you're going to be on a platform that we're working on and delivering new function on with technology refreshes for a long time into the future. Now, one of the things that we've always made part of our value proposition is to have a low total cost of ownership. So over the years, our platform, AS400, iSeries, now IBM I Empower, has been compared to our competition for how do we do in delivering total cost of ownership that beats our competition. This is the most recent study that was done. It's done by a company called Quark Lepton, and while they have not yet published this, they have told me that I can use these next few charts to show you folks. And very soon, if you follow me on Twitter or a blog, I will be posting the link to the real papers these come from. But basically what this shows is that if you're running your whole business, your whole mid-size or small business on IBM I Empower, you're going to spend about 60% less than if you ran that whole business on an x86 server, either running Windows or Linux. And why is that? Well, there are a number of different components, and most of them are smaller on I Empower. But one of the big reasons for it is that you don't need nearly as many people. And I bet if you're a long-time customer of ours, you recognize this. Your Windows people in your organization are probably 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 times as many as your I people are. And that's because this integrated nature of this platform has allowed us to have just a few people be engaged in running the platform, and because we aren't down very often, you don't have to apply many fixes very often, etc. So you just don't need the staff. That is the biggest component here of the competitive comparison, but it's not the only bit. It's also the case that these days, if you buy one IBM I Power system, yes, it's going to cost you more than buying one x86 system, but you can probably run your business, your whole business, with every application you need on one system. Maybe you have a backup system or a secondary system or an application development system that you use also, but your business is probably, if you're a small or mid-sized business, probably running on one power system. If you try and do that same business on Windows or Linux, you're buying several boxes and having to pay for licensing on several boxes. And so that acquisition cost, when it all gets compared, at a whole configuration level, we tend to be pretty competitive there. And then, of course, there's a lot lower cost of ongoing operations because of the things we talked about before. It's also the case that our clients tend to see us as a very reliable system. And what Quark Lepton did here was try to compare reliability by comparing downtime expense. If you're down, if your system is down, you are at least losing the opportunity to have money generated. You may actually be losing money completely. And so what they did was they said, okay, if your business is down, that costs you a certain amount of money. Each business on any platform is probably down some. How much is each platform down, and then how much does that end up costing a business because of that? So because we are significantly more reliable, we don't cost businesses nearly as much money. And these, by the way, are numbers from enterprise studies, large customer studies. Our small customers don't lose anything like this when their system is unavailable because they just don't generate the kind of revenue. But if you are a large bank, and we have hundreds of large banks who use IBM I, if you're a large bank and you're down for an hour, that can cost you quite a bit. But if you're on a different platform, you're going to be down considerably more than that. And so this 3 to 4 times more reliable is really about how much we save customers because we don't force them to be down. Another thing they've included in their comparison is just the vulnerabilities. As I mentioned when I was talking about our architecture, we have an architecture that protects people from things like viruses and the ability to get in and mess with customer and system data. in the industry, people report vulnerabilities that they find with their operating systems to an independent source. This is the NIST Computer Security Division that gathers up these vulnerabilities. And as you can see, Windows Server should be complemented. Over the course of 8 years, they have reduced the number of vulnerabilities by a factor of 10. That's great. But in the same time frame, you know, the 6.171 releases only ever had one vulnerability reported to them. That one vulnerability, by the way, on 7.1 was in an early ship program, but because some customers had that, we had to report it. And then we haven't had any on our most recent releases yet. So this is one of the reasons that we end up being such a reliable platform. Now, we do have thousands and thousands of solution providers that provide solutions on our platform, and we listen to them a lot and talk to them about where we're going into the future. But what we're about as a business is being able to enable all of those solutions, whether they come from one of these solution providers or whether they're written in-house by our customers, and take it into today's marketplace. And that means we try to provide integrated technology that will help them get to analytics or cloud or mobile. And we've got a lot of partners who are helping our clients get there. Now, we've been doing major new things every major release, and I don't have the time to go into the details of these things. Each one of them takes about an hour and a half to describe the major releases. But I do want to talk about some of the key enhancements that we've made to show you the kind of strategy turned into plan that we've been doing. So I said we're going to continue to invest in what our DB2 does. So row and column access control came out in 7.2, and by the way, is therefore available in 7.3. So whichever of those releases you go to, you get built into the database the ability to define at the database level who needs to be able to see this information and who should be excluded from seeing it. And then no matter how you use the data in your database, because you've defined it at the database, you can be sure that only the right people see the data that's in there. We also created capabilities around managing the system from any kind of device. Okay, so you don't have to use a Windows PC to manage this platform anymore. You can use a mobile device, a web interface, a PC, a Mac, a Linux, anything can be used now to manage this platform, so that we're giving people choices. And for solution development, if you're an application developer, we made extensive modifications to RPG so that younger people and newer people to the platform can use RPG. Okay? But we've also got a bunch of new open source options for clients, and these rolled out during the 7.2 timeframe and are of course available in 7.3. When 7.3 came out, we had a marketing campaign that really was focused on the idea of reintroducing people to IBM I. If you still think of us as an AS400, or if you still think of us as an iSeries, these systems could not do the kinds of things you can do today with IBM I on Power. And so what we wanted to do is get people to look at what their platform can do. Way too many of our clients are not aware, for example, that we can do web serving, web services, that we can do all sorts of workloads, including open source workloads. And so when they're asked about it, they assume that it has to be run on some other platform. And we want people to understand they can gain even more value from IBM I if they just look at what we can do. So 7.3, for example, allows you to do analytics built into the database. It allows you to have a security management tool that proves to your auditors that you've got things secured properly and you don't need an external device interrogating your security to determine whether you've secured things properly, and you can prove that on the system, for example. So our temporal support and our OLAP, or analytics support, built into our database allows people to do things with their data that they would have previously thought, oh, I have to go get a different system to be able to do this. Authority collection, again, allows you to prove to auditors on your system, I've got my data and my software secured exactly the way it should be, and you don't need to have some external thing proving that to you. And then we continue to do new things with this easy-to-learn RPG. This is RPG, by the way, just it'll run the same RPG it always has run, but you can now transform it into an RPG that can be taught to younger people, and they'll be able to pick it up, and I have examples of that in a minute. We also wanted to make sure that developers of those solutions, whether you're hiring them to do solutions in your shop or whether they were for solution providers, they can use the kinds of languages and tools that are being taught in colleges and universities today and are being used by some of the most modern app developers in the world. Okay, so we had a list of new things that are out there that people didn't know we might or might not have known that we were able to do. So that's kind of what we've been delivering in the last couple of releases. Where are we headed into the future? Now, I can't share confidential information with you, but I want to give you the kinds of things that we've been doing that will give you hints as to where we're heading into our future. To do a plan or a strategy, which is my job after all, one of the things that I consider vital is to work with my community. Now, my community is an active and passionate community. We have user groups around the world. These are just some of the in-person and online user communities that give us advice on what we're going to need to do, and we spend a lot of time talking to those. So WMCPA is the Wisconsin Users Group. Omni users are from the Chicago area. Data3 is in Sweden. NICIG is in Great Britain. Ocean is in Southern California. We have folks all around the world who are willing to give us opinions on where we ought to head as a platform, and we listen to them. And we have some specific ways that we listen to customers in confidential environments, and that's what this chart is meant to describe. The common organization that runs events for our customers all around the world, but particularly in North America and Europe, have selected a few of their members to be advisors to us in an advisory council role. So these advisors get to see our future plans, and then they give us requirements that come from their user base. We have a large users group on the upper left here. This is about 100 of the largest companies of the world who run IBM I and use it to run their big businesses. They meet in Rochester with us 3 weeks out of every year, 3 times a year, a week at a time. They come to Rochester and they hear from us where we're headed as a platform. They give us requirements. In fact, as I'm speaking to you right now, we are on the Thursday of one of those weeks. We've got 110 people from about 89 of those companies here listening to us. So they're giving us requirements. We also have an Isv Advisory Council because our solution providers are telling us where they're going with their technology. What do they need from the database? What do they need from open source? So we listen to that to set our strategy. We also have some specific ISVs we do interlock development with, SAP, for example, and Oracle's J.D. Edwards, for example. Then we have the stuff that looks like Chinese off to the right. That's the portion of our development team that lives in China. They've been there for about 11 years now. They have about 30% of our developers, and they meet with our Chinese clients 3 times a year to get requirements from them. We also do briefings and planning sessions here. We'd love to have you come up. We'd host you. We'd give you 1, 2, 3 days, whatever you needed of in-depth presentations from the experts here in Rochester. And then the bottom thing on the chart is RFEs. This is something anybody who's an iClient can do. You can go to IBM's Request for Enhancement, or RFE, tool on the web, and you can give us requirements. And we look at those requirements to determine what it is our clients need into the future. Now, I travel the world a lot, and so when I talk to individual clients, I ask them, what are they doing in the next few years on their I platform? And these are the 6 things I hear the most. My data runs on I, but I want to get more value from it. And that's, in fact, why we do things like column access control, the temporal support we did, analytics support we did, because we know customers have their data on I, and we know they want to do more with it. High availability and disaster recovery. Kevin mentioned this at the beginning. This is something that our partners often get involved in because our customers don't want to become experts in high availability and disaster recovery, but everybody understands that if you're out of business for a few days, you might be out of business forever. And so we need to have a way to keep your system and your business up and running. Lots and lots of our clients want to either take advantage of cloud to be able to do backups, for example, or availability, or they just want to internally be able to use the virtualization that's available in cloud. I don't know if you guys know this now, but since 2012, you've been able to take a running IBM I partition and move it from one physical system to another physical system while it's still running. That sort of cloud capability is something that some of our clients want to use, even if they don't want somebody to create a cloud for them. Modern technology. Many of our clients continue to use green screens and think that that's all this platform can do. And yet, user interfaces these days are really geared towards mobile devices, things like iPads, iPhones, etc. Okay? Well, that's what you want to be able to do. That's a project that you have. You need to know that IBM I can do that, and there are a lot of technologies that can help you. Lots of our clients want to improve their security or exploit the most current storage. These are the kinds of things we hear clients saying that they want to do. And so our priorities, when we decide what to put in plan, are based on the strategy that we have plus this input that we get from our clients. So number one, what do our solution providers need? That's often database and language support for mobile devices. And then, because so many of our clients want to use cloud technology, we want to make sure that we are as good in the cloud as we've always been on site. So we do that by exploiting the technology that Power is doing for cloud, not just for I, but for AIX and Linux as well, and for things like Watson, which run in the cloud and use Power platforms. So we want to take advantage of that technology. But whatever we do, we're going to make sure that we integrate this stuff, make it as simple, secure, and available as we've always been as a platform. So when we put things into plan, these are the priorities that we use. Now, that means we need to help our clients get into the modern age. We need our clients to know that there is a path to getting a better user experience, to being able to take the database that may have been designed in the 90s and get it into today's environment where you can do analytics, where you can do time-based queries and get the necessary information out of it. We want to make sure people are using the most modern tools, because people who use our modern development tools are often 25 to 50% more efficient. They can do more for their business if they use these tools, and these tools help them to integrate things like RPG with open source, etc. So we want to help people get modernized. To do that, as I mentioned before, we're investing in bringing a lot of open technology to our platform. So things like Java, which isn't exactly open, but people kind of think of it that way. But Python, PHP, Node.js, these are open technologies that are now running on our platform so people can use that. And yet we also continue to invest in our free format RPG, the newer version of RPG. It runs the same old RPG that you had before, but new free format RPG, particularly when combined with Rational Developer for I, can provide an environment that can get new people onto the platform very, very quickly. Our application languages strategy, in fact, is to continue to bring RPG into the modern world while not breaking anything that currently exists, but also bring these new technologies in because it's a way to get new people and it's a way to get new solutions onto the platform. When we look at what our clients are doing, we're seeing that many of them are doing multiple programming languages these days. This comes from the Help Systems survey that they conduct every year. This is from the one that they published at the beginning of 2017 that shows that when people do new development on this platform, the overwhelming majority of them still use RPG. Another survey that was run by Profound shows that most of them are using new RPG. But they also use things like .NET, PHP, COBOL, and other languages. So people are writing in more than one language today. And if you look at what open source development tools are being used, you can see that about a third of our clients are using PHP to do something. And some of the most recent additions that we've made to the open source technology are already being adopted. Remember, I said this thing was published in January of this year. That means that this information was taken in the fall of last year. Well, if Node.js, which you can see is the third biggest open tool there, had only been around for a year, we'd only delivered it a year earlier, and here already we had almost 9% of our clients using Node.js. So there are a lot of our clients wanting to take advantage of this new stuff. And because of that, getting access to younger people in their organization. As I travel the world now, when I go to conferences, I'm seeing more and more younger people, and most of them are taking advantage of these new technologies. Now, they're still doing RPG, okay, but they're also doing new languages, and they're doing modern RPG. This is just a guy, Cody Robinson, who works for a company who recognized when he came into the company, they had to make it possible for him to work on the existing code they had. And so they worked to incorporate Rational Developer for I and the RCAD transformer to transform their existing RPG code into stuff that somebody as young as Cody could do. He had never learned RPG till he joined this company. He became the key lead developer on transforming their green screen applications to things that are now available on mobile devices and web devices, not just available to their company, but also to their clients. They won the Common Innovation Award 2 Commons ago because of the kind of work they did, showing how these new technologies can bring value to the business, but also bring young people into the business. We've also got a lot of other examples of young people. Liam is a great guy. He's just turned 20. He writes compilers on this platform now using RPG. It's amazing. But because we were seeing so many of these young people come into our marketplace, our marketing team put together a program called Fresh Faces of Ibm I. And we are highlighting them on the Ibm I homepage, showing the kinds of people that you can get. And if you happen to know any young people who've come into this marketplace, we'd love to be able to tell their story. We're finding that there are more stories to tell than we have resources to tell them, but we would love to be able to tell those stories. Now, a couple of things that are relatively new to our I clients but are clearly emerging in the marketplace are cloud and mobile. And in the cloud space, it's really important for us to understand that while most of our clients aren't specifically saying, build me a cloud, most of our solution providers who are growing are actually growing by use of the cloud. These are some folks who are doing cloud, and I'll just point out Morpay in the middle of the chart there. They've gained over 3,500 brand new clients since they changed their RPG program from being a green screen application to something that can be served over a cloud. Now, those 3,500 new clients don't even know they're running on Ibm I, but we sell big systems to Morpay, and they sell themselves as a solution over the net. And voila, we've got more people running on I. This is how Ibm I is growing more than anything else in the marketplace, is these solution providers who are taking things to the cloud. Mobile is also a huge driver in our marketplace today. We've been adding new integrated technology both to the operating system as well as contributing it to open source so that people can do mobile on Ibm I. And we work with our tool vendors to make sure that they are ready to take advantage of this new technology, and then they add their own special sauce, their own special ways of doing it, but it all brings our clients to this new mobile interface world. In fact, these 4 different partners have 4 different ways of getting clients from green screen RPG to cloud and or mobile. And in every one of these cases, they provided significant business value to our customer base or the customer they were working with. Look Software increased Anthony Squire's revenue by 16% in under 6 months by giving them a mobile interface to something that was previously green screen. Zen Roguewave, who are responsible for PHP, helped Corvette America cut their costs for doing their order taking and delivery, and the cost of that project was made up by the savings in under 6 months. Profound Logic helped San Diego Regional Center reach out to clients and not have to burden them with paperwork by being able to bring them mobile tablet-based interfaces because they needed to travel to their customers who happen to be their patients and be able to do it in a very easy way that cut down on expenses as well as errors. And then Lanza helped Bostus to turn into, Bostus is a part of the Australian government that is responsible for doing test scoring. In their country, 3 times a year, their public school students have to take tests, and Bostus is responsible for scoring those and getting those results out. Well, they were able to turn their application into something that they can do around the world for other countries and other organizations. So they began making money for the Australian government by using their existing application in a cloud and mobile way. So we're working with partners by taking advantage of these technologies. Now into the future, one of the things we're beginning to see even today is that more and more of our clients are going to be able to take advantage of the things that IBM is doing in the artificial intelligence or cognitive world. And there are kind of three ways to get to those things that IBM is offering. First of all, there's Watson itself. Now, if you have only paid attention to Watson when it won in Jeopardy a few years back, that's the core of the artificial intelligence we're talking about. It runs on power, but it's being applied to so much more than that today. And we are beginning to show customers how they can connect their existing applications to artificial intelligence, cognitive, analytics, etc., that's available to them at no charge or at a low charge, and get tremendous new value from that. Because that's one of the things that we know the future of the solutions that are running on our platform is going to need. So we are working to be able to give that information to our clients so that they can begin to think, how can I apply this new cognitive capability, this new artificial intelligence capability to the existing applications that I have. So now not only will it be cloud enabled, mobile enabled, but it'll also be AI or cognitive enabled. All right, so what's our platform? Well, our platform is, at its core, still the platform that existed in 1988 in the sense that our architecture allows those native solutions to continue to run as they always have. They can be green screen, they can be GUI interfaces, they can be web or mobile these days. All those native solutions can continue to run on our platform. Typically, those things are written in RPG, COBOL, and Java, okay? And that's the core of our business. But there is a portion of our business that is all about open source. I go to a huge convention of iUsers in Japan every year. This year it's in Beppu, Japan in November. And every year I go, there's like 1,500 people who go there, and there's a portion of that audience, about 20% of them, who are only using IBM I to be the open source platform. They want to run this open source software, and they can. They don't have to run it on a less reliable, less powerful x86. They can run it on a platform that has an integrated database, that has great reliability and great backup capabilities, okay? But they can do their open source on IBM I. And of course, we have clients who are using both of these things together. But if you don't have everything you need there, you can certainly put a Linux partition on your same power box. And we in IBM I invest in making sure that Linux can connect into our database so that you don't have to move your data off of IBM I. That's, for example, some of what we did with our analytics support, so that something like Cognos doesn't have to pull the data off of I, but can actually use the data on I and get the advanced functions that Cognos does. So we are trying to continue our heritage of being a solutions platform for your business, no matter how you want to do it. Most of the time, you can do what you need to do on I. If you have a need to do something on Linux for whatever reason, we're making sure that you can connect easily to us for that. Now, we have lots and lots of clients who are willing to tell their stories to be references for us, but we are always looking for more. If you're doing something on this platform, if your business relies on us and you're happy with it, we'd love to work with you and your business partner, Champion, to be able to tell that story. It doesn't require a lot of effort on your part, but I really love to have client stories to be able to take to my meetings with other clients. See, I spend a good portion of my time talking to clients who've gotten recent new executives who've never heard of this platform. And they need to hear about why this platform is good and why they ought to remain on this platform and continue to get business value from it. One of the best tools that I have when I go talk to clients like that is references. People who are in the same business as them or who have a business that's about the same size as theirs, who I can use to say, this client is happy and here's why. Now when I tell them the roadmap and all that, they have a better feeling. So if you're that kind of client, if you're happy with this platform, love to have your story join these 100+ references that we have. Now, our clients do tend to be happy with this platform. This is another help systems survey question they ask at the end of every one of their surveys. Do you believe you get a better return on your investment from your IBM I server than the other servers in your environment? And you can see overwhelmingly that our clients do believe they get a better return on investment. This is what we want. We want our platform to give them a better return on investment. We want it to be the platform they want to run their solutions on. And so this is a nice thing for us to see, but we're always working to make sure that that continues to be the answer that our clients give. So where are we headed as a platform? Well, I showed you an open version of this, an unfilled-in version of this, but hopefully the messages that I put on these road signs make sense based on what I've been telling you. IBM I's direction will always be to focus on what our solutions need, because that's what drives our business. We'll always be working on integrating the technology that you as a customer and they as solution providers need. We don't do it just based on whatever the newest technology is, though. We do it based on the business value that it brings to you. We're not going to do cognitive just because it's cool, but because it has some business value it can provide to you. And what I hope that you've been able to see is that IBM I has a long future ahead of us. If you're counting on this platform to carry you to your future, that's what we're working towards as well. So that's the direction. Those are some of the newest things we've been doing. I thank you for your time. Be happy to turn it back over to Kevin and then take questions if we have them.
Thank you, Steve, and that was very informative. I think a lot of people got a lot out of this. We do have a couple of questions here, but I'm just going to take control back here in 1 second and show you the one last slide that we have. And here we go. So as you can see, the next steps that we have, okay, there we go. You can request an IBM-funded performance analysis study. And, you know, this is for your I platform. So this is something that IBM funds and Champion can perform for you. You can contact Champion to assist you with all your IBM Power needs, AIX, Linux, and I. And you can learn more about our capabilities here on www.championsg.com/partners/IBM Power Managed Services. Now, we will be sending out these slides to you, anyone that registered for the webinar. So you'll be getting these with all the links and everything in there. So Steve, let me just read you the questions that we have here. Just give me 1 second. First one is from Roger. Roger says, availability of experienced iSeries people can be a problem when hiring. Do you have any suggestions?
Yep, so I recognize that. By the way, that is not unique to the I environment. Having experienced people in pretty much any environment is difficult these days. So first of all, if you really need experienced people, get involved with local user groups to the extent that you can find them. Network on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is probably the best place to go looking for people like that. That's an online source. But I also want to encourage people to realize that most of our customers who run the platform never had the experience in the first place. They got it on the job. And yes, they went to some conferences or user groups or whatever and got educated and so on. Often what we find is that the new people coming out of school, if properly prompted, are willing to learn anything for money. In fact, one of the most successful programs that I have seen our partners using to get experienced people is to do an internship program where they go to a local community college where maybe somebody is just out of high school, or maybe they're looking for a second career, and they say, I tell you what, I'm going to have an internship program. I'm going to pay you $20,000, $30,000 a year. You work for me. You're going to learn some stuff. And by the time they're done being an intern, which is relatively inexpensive, they've learned so much on the job that they're ready to be hired right away. So I have seen that be super successful. I mentioned to you that I go to Japan every year. And at this conference where there are 1,500 people, about 20% of them are age 35 or under. And that's because in Japan, the business culture is hire somebody young to replace somebody who's going to grow out of their job. That does not seem to be the culture here in the United States. But many businesses are willing to look at internship or co-op positions because they don't cost very much and they're not much of a risk. You don't have to commit to having an employee for a long time. Now, having said that, once you try and get one of those people, what you want to find is ways to educate them. And again, I suggest you look at some of the things that are available in our user community. Common, that organization, has worked with IBM to create a couple of things called boot camps. There's a boot camp for programmers in RPG, of which you're specifically looking for is people who can become RPG programmers. Well, RPG these days can be taught to a Java developer or a Visual Basic developer very easily if you use the modern tools. And Common has, I think, an 8 or 10 session course that brings people up to speed on RPG. They're also doing the same kind of boot camp for system administrators. If the kind of person you're looking for is somebody who knows how to manage the platform, but they've never seen the platform before, that's one of the things that Common can do. So there are a number of different ways to address the issue. You're absolutely right that there are very few experienced people out there looking for work because there are far fewer of them than there are people who want to hire them. Most of the people who come out of the academic initiative programs that we have going on around the world, these are programs that we work with educational institutions like technical colleges, community colleges, and universities to teach IBM I in their curriculum. Most of the people who come out of those programs, having learned how to manage I or code on I, have jobs even before they leave the program because people have already looked, oh, there's a community college in my area that teaches that. I'm going to go talk to those people, offer them co-ops, or just even hire them ahead of time. So there aren't as many of them coming out of college, and so we need to transform some people. And we're trying to work with our user community, like Common, to be able to get the necessary materials out there to help them do that. So long answer to a short question, but I do recognize it as a difficulty. I do want people to understand the same is happening for AIX, the same is happening for Windows. There are so many people who are coming out of school these days who didn't ever learn to write Windows programs. They learned to write apps for mobile devices. And so we're finding more and more Windows environments that are having trouble finding people as well. So it's just the nature of our business that as we age, we need to find ways to get younger people educated, and we're trying to find ways to do that. I've mentioned some of them.
Thank you, Steve. And I also think that you educating people that there is a future in I, and it's a platform that's going to be around a long time. I know these young people are always worried that they'll become antiquated very quickly, and the platform won't be viable. And I think your education of the roadmap going forward helps those people make that decision a little bit easier too. So let's go on to the next question. James asks, you talked a lot about cloud. Is there an iSeries cloud solution?
All right, so the answer to that is yes and yes. So, all right, so first of all, IBM went heavy into the cloud environment by buying a company called SoftLayer. SoftLayer was, when we bought them, an x86-based cloud provider, and over time they have started offering some power-based clouds, but primarily they're using that to do Watson and a couple of other things. But they're not in the iCloud environment. One of the reasons they're not is because our partners have entered that marketplace. There are a lot of our partners who are providing cloud managed service environments for our client base, and they tend to do it more efficiently than IBM and SoftLayer could. So I'm not sure SoftLayer ever will get into that business. There is, if you want an IBM branded cloud environment, there is a part of our global services team that is making one of those things available. But the important thing to recognize is that the technology that we've put into this operating system and power systems hardware since 2010 has made it possible for a lot of different cloud providers to exist out there. So I don't want to sell you on somebody else when Champion might be able to do it, but I am telling you that there is if you go out and Google, you can find, now, if you ask iSeries Cloud, I'm just telling you, you're not going to find nearly as many as if you ask about IBM I on power system clouds, because no iSeries was ever enabled for cloud. iSeries stopped being sold in 2006. But IBM I on power, yep, there are a lot of power cloud providers, and many of them do I, and many of our partners are some of those people.
Well, thank you, Steve. And that's all the questions that I have. I really appreciate your time, Steve, today. I think you gave all of us an education. Like I said, we will be emailing out all these, all the slides that Steve has done. Along with this has been recorded, so for those people that didn't get a chance to attend because, you know, we are in IT and things happen, we will be sending you a link to the recording. So if you want to either give it to another person in your company or maybe share it with an executive, it's always a good learning tool. As you know, Champion does hold webinars all the time. If you want to check out what's coming in the future, you can go to championsg.com, go to our events calendar, and you'll see the other webinars we have coming. With that, I'm going to end this, and thanks again, Steve. Keep warm up there in Minnesota, and I know that winter's coming, but you can always visit us down here in Florida.
All right. I look forward to joining you in November for some of your client events. All right.
Okay, you got it. Have a great day, everyone.
All right, bye.